I'm Warren Sprouse. This is the Bible Forum. We do this every Sunday night from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. I'd love for you to join us live and check out the chat room and all the other stuff that's there. The drums of war are sounding around the world in the potential battle between North Korea and everybody else. The stakes were just raised. In the battle between Sunni and Shia Muslims in Saudi Arabia, the stakes were just raised. In regard to North Korea, Japan has just bought a missile system from the United States that has already demonstrated its ability to shoot down another missile. It demonstrated that ability in Saudi Arabia. Yemen is a country south of Saudi Arabia, on the tip of the Arabian Peninsula, on the Gulf of Aden, marking the northern shore of the Red Sea, right there as you would come into it. The war has been raging in this region for several years. It's largely a proxy war between Saudi Arabia and Iran. The Iranians are funding this thing. Now, Saudis are largely Sunni Arabs, while Iran is Shia. These are the two major groups within Islam. The majority of the oil in Saudi Arabia lies in Shia-populated areas. Iran is largely Shia. But the ruling sheikhs of Saudi Arabia are Sunni. Shia and Sunni do not get along unless they're fighting a common enemy, in which case the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And it's well known that both Saudi Arabia and Iran are bankrolling the effort in Syria and in Lebanon and in Iraq. They're banking this in an effort to exert more authority and control in those regions. So this attack comes during a time of the biggest purge in the modern history of Saudi Arabia. The news was reporting in the last week or two that Saudi King Salman abruptly announced the arrests of 11 senior princes and some 38 ministers, including Prince Al-Walid bin Talal, the world's 61st richest man and the largest shareholder in City, News Corp, and Twitter. The purge was orchestrated by a new Supreme Committee to investigate public corruption created by King Salman, but under the control of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, who chairs the committee and is widely suspected of being the driving force behind the purge. His elder Salman is about to retire, and the younger Salman is about to rise to the throne. In addition to the arrest, 2 royals have died since this purge began. One reportedly perished in a helicopter crash near the Yemen border just earlier last week. And another one was killed during a firefight as authorities attempted to arrest him. The Wall Street Journal suggests the purge may be nothing more than a naked cash grab, as the paper reports the kingdom is aiming to confiscate cash and assets worth as much as $800 billion, with a B, dollars. So what's going on? Well, the Saudis are on the verge of a changeover in leadership with the impending retirement of the current king. And they're actually calling this Phase 1. Observers in the region believe the Crown Prince may be consolidating power in order to assert Saudi influence internationally. And Yahoo is reporting that the Saudis are saying that the recent missile attack on Riyadh 2 weeks ago tomorrow, Monday, may amount to an act of war. It's been surmised by some experts that a major reason the Saudis fund and export terror is simple self-preservation. Their logic is if we finance the radicals, they won't turn on us. All of that is, at least in part, as you may remember, why the kingdom funded Al-Qaeda when bin Laden was the head cheese. He was Saudi. They literally funded him on the stipulation that he would not return to Saudi Arabia. And all this has served to keep the nation relatively stable, even when those around them are under siege. The radical Islamists chose not to bite off the hand that was feeding them. But things seem to have changed. Now it seems that it's none other than the Saudis who are feeling threatened by the other major terror sponsor, which is Iran. Really? They couldn't see this coming? Two sayings that apply nicely to this situation are nature abhors a vacuum, or more specifically, a power vacuum, and the enemy of my enemy is my friend. The Persians, Iran, have wished to be the top dog in the Middle East for many, many moons, thousands of years. They hadn't made any major inroads until the Iraq War and the Arab Spring. But since then, they've done well to capitalize on the fall of Iraq and the death of Saddam Hussein, the death of Gaddafi in Libya, and the deposed Hosni Mubarak in Egypt. With the help of the Russians, Iran has managed to become a serious threat to a once stable Saudi Arabia. So great that it appears Saudi Arabia may be forming a clandestine alliance with enemy number one in the Middle East, Israel. It was said just this week that Saudi Arabia has cleared the airspace between Israel and Iran, just in case that Israel needs it to make a run. This is as odd a couple as the Tea Party collaborating with Antifa. In a very short period of time, nations that were aligned with the Saudis of the West are now cozying up to Iran. Turkey, still inexplicably part of NATO, is leaning more toward Iran and to Russia. Now, this is very worrisome, as Turkey is number one in global firepower's Middle East military strength rankings. Qatar, long an ally of Saudi Arabia, has begun distancing itself from the Saudis and is instead sidling up to Iran. If you look at your map, Qatar is right across the, whatever that body of water is, between Iran and Saudi Arabia. There's Qatar. We have at least an Air Force base there. I just talked to a young fellow who just came back from there. Qatar is playing the game to see who's going to be the big dog. In 2016, due to the urging of the Saudis and the ransacking of its embassy in Tehran, the consulate in Qatar drastically pared down its diplomatic relations with Iran. However, this past August, Qatar restored full diplomatic relations, effectively poking a stick in the eye of the Saudis. A proxy war against Iran in Yemen has not gone the Saudis' way either. And Iran-funded Hezbollah has made major inroads in Lebanon. If you look at the regional map, it doesn't take a genius to figure out what Iran is up to. And all this frightens the Saudis, and it should. The Jerusalem Post writes that the Saudis had run tests on bringing down air defense systems to provide the Israeli Air Force a path of least resistance to Iran should they need one. They'll benefit greatly if all of this starts to happen. At the end of the day, this conflict will likely be what it has always been, a battle of supremacy between Sunni and Shia. And you ask yourself, why should we even care? We don't live there. But hopefully that is nobody's attitude, because we should care. If the Middle East blows up, the rest of the world will follow. Saudi Arabia and Iran go to war, the U.S. would be on the side of the Saudis. Since at least one missile has already been fired at Saudi Arabia, a missile with a warhead reported to be very close to the definition of a weapon of mass destruction, the event cannot be exaggerated. The missile that shot down the Iranian missile was provided by the United States and worked as advertised. President Trump referenced that in a speech in Japan last week as a way to inform North Korea what they can expect, since Japan is now buying this same missile system as we speak. What we're looking at is an outbreak of war in the Middle East and in the Far East almost any day now. In both eventualities, the United States will be involved directly. Perhaps the entire West will be involved. It has the potential of consuming every nation on the face of the planet. Bible talks about stuff like this. Everybody mocks the Bible. Keep your eyes on the eastern sky.